悪魔と相乗りする勇気あるかな。どこのどいつだ。No!
I love this show so damn much.
世界の平和を守るため Go! Go! Let's go! 輝くマシンライダージャンライダーキッ仮面ライダー仮面ライダーライダーライダー
Chicago, a windy city, except in summer where there's no wind at all. Cost of living is high, crime driven by conservatives undermining judicial efforts and public services, and in-city jobs are non-existent. I hate my half-hour morning commute. My name is Shinta. I'm a voice among many, trying to be heard. If you are a callous, insufferable idiot, asshole, or hypocrite, I will find you, and I will rip you a new one with reason you suck speeches. The last few years, I've been working my way through the Kamen Rider franchise, and while I hate the lacking quality in my early work and don't always see the interpretations others enjoy, I've completed reviews on everything from the original adventures of Takeshi Hongo to the Laments of Death in Phase, and in between destroyed the atrocious Tyson films for their various offenses. Now to be fair, Tyson Z isn't that bad, at least offensive one at least. Now though, I'm skipping ahead into the Neo Heisei run, which has confused my viewers. Especially since people keep demanding I do Blade instead of a show that is near universally beloved.
And no, that's not exaggeration. While it's not flawless, few people have bad things to say about Double. Cats aren't my thing.
Some of that may have been because of the fallout to Decade, a series that ended up a monument to prior Heisei Rider shows' sins. While doing well financially, it ended on a low with the fanbase from its producer playing havoc with its development, its main writer fired, and much of its storyline abandoned or incoherently rewritten, leaving it one of the franchise's uncontested black sheep.
I still to this day make a case for Narataki being an incarnation of the great leader of Shocker.
So Double, the character first appearing as a cameo in Decade's All Riders vs. Die Shocker, was taken as a breath of fresh air diverging from what was seen as negative and unappealing about the franchise. Especially with how many fell in love with its atmosphere brought by its detective noir stylization.
The few detractors I have heard more say it's the beginning point of a general term to the show becoming more adolescent, and I really don't agree with that. Seeing Double as one of the more mature and balanced entries, and a lot of other crap Double gets blamed for actually started around Den-O.
In reality, Double was just trying to be more fun and broaden the appeal of the show, while still keeping a serious slant to its greater events and finally show respect to the Showa era of the franchise again, which had been abandoned in prior years amidst pandering down to the lowest common denominator, being juvenilely grimdark or graphic, the heroes performing villainous or asinine actions and yet the reality of such is ignored, fighting among themselves for stupid reasons, or being assholes. All of which don't do the franchise credit even if they were part of an entry people liked if they weren't used well.
And yes, this show has goofy events in it, but most of its comedy is placed appropriately to invoke a punchline out of a situation over being stuffed artificially as the distraction which makes the show be stupid. Double honestly has one of the tightest progressive ongoing stories in the franchise, magnificently balancing its filler and main story at a fantastically even pace. And its popularity netted it to 23 billion yen, entirely redefining reception for the franchise, and only tops by O's and 4's to date.
Still, let's talk Riku Sanjo, as he is why I'm doing this series now instead of continuing to go in order.
My reason being that I'm doing Kyoryuger and Dino Charge at the end of 2017, and I felt it would be a good idea to give context to him as a writer with what is arguably his most popular work.
Sanjo, in my opinion, is a great writer, Outside of Tokusatsu, he's known for his highly successful manga Dragon Quest The Adventures of Dai, and also Beat the Vandal Buster.
And I've liked his work long before I watched Kamen Rider, as he's also responsible for the screenplay adaptations for the Gaibro OVAs that got me into that series. But he also did MD Geist and the overarching story to Digimon Cross Wars to show that he's not got a spotless record. Admittedly, a lot of writers worked on and fucked up Cross Wars, so it's not like he's solely to blame for that one.
Sanjo's good with both serialized story arcs and standalone episodes, alongside properly pacing out his tales, using the standalones to either have fun, seed storyline for later events, or help make his characters fleshed out people, playing off of the introduced elements over time with their defined personalities. His stories contain the recurring themes of legacy, family, and bridging connections, which give them popular appeal, and including a subtextual sophistication for older fans, as he is a writer that has stated his disdain for writing down to an audience for any reason, intending what he makes to be enjoyed not solely by small children, but anyone and everyone.
Oh, and how can I forget? People who really like wearing leather. Have I mentioned this jacket is really comfortable?
Continuity is a great strength with him, things he writes fitting into a greater canon with little contradiction, while also respecting the standalone but interconnected natures of the shows around his, by at the very least researching and being made aware of their content.
Unfortunately, that cannot be said of his peers. If an event involves characters he created and he or his co-writers didn't work on it, then events about those characters have almost all been terrible.
He tends to contrast comedy antics in an episode with the reality of the serious threat of the villains, with neither feeling out of place, and more complementing each other, and such variety helping give dimension to the bad guys many of his peers don't bother with, or do so at the cost of other characters. All of his series have a romantic angle for at least two of the cast members, which develops over time. The impression left that they get together after the show if we don't see it happen.
But to begin mentioning his detractions, the seeds for the paramours are not even D-plots, nor properly fleshed out, to the point it can seem imagined until it's confirmed in story, as the evidence as much infers close friendship, and yet, they are all better love stories than Twilight. It also seems he has difficulty getting ideas out of his head, Sanjo having admitted he works better in collaboration with other creators, which contrast his skills, as it allows more ideas to flourish between them.
This is most prominently showcased with his manga, which he said is an equal split of talent with his artist friend Koji Inada. Hell, the reason Beat the Vandal Buster was on hiatus for over a decade is Inada fell ill. But the biggest critique, and something else he's admitted to, is he works better with smaller casts. As well, he doesn't have a problem giving importance to and managing multiple character arcs at a time. The difficulty comes in giving such to everyone. Too many, and the cast end up as window dressing, more there for story points than their own sake.
As an example of what I'm talking about, think Star Trek. Members of the cast may exist, have gun-focused episodes, but often they did not matter to or are interchangeable in a given story, and that happens with Sanjo if he is forced to include too many characters.
At the very least, Sanjo tries to avoid this and give at least a few episodes to focusing on the secondary cast, which establishes them as more than one-dimensional, with their personality quirks then shining through the rest of the time to create a consistent character. But some do still end up feeling like wastes.
Sanjo's written 4 Tokusatsu series for Toei since 2009. Kamen Rider Double, Kamen Rider Force, Juden Sentai Kyoryuger, and Kamen Rider Drive, and I have ultimately liked all of the series he has written. He gets in this niche for me which satisfies a lot of itches, which leaves me enjoying the overall run despite their flaws. But everything past Double has mixed reception to it.
Now, we give Sanjo slack for Fours, as it was more Gurren Lagann writer Kazuki Nakashima's baby, and hit by what has been coined the O-Ranger effect by Tokopedia administrator Aldo the Fox, in how executives curtailed what the staff wanted to do because of real-life events, and complaints from people who didn't even watch the show.
Kyoryuger and Drive, however, had meddling from producer Takahiro Omori. Not getting into that now, but there's a reason there was no Kyoryu Yellow. And it's really stupid.
Double also started a numeric theme for the franchise, which continued with O's and then concluded with 4s, ending because according to Toei, they, the design company Plex, and Bandai could no longer fit the counting gag in with a 5 or higher value numbers. Which all started with how all three designed the main belt and related transformation trinkets, but expanded into a greater recurring motif in the suit design and writing of those series. Double regularly references the number 2. It used 2 transformation trinkets in the belt to transform. It was a 2-in-1 rider with 2 people in control and fusing their strengths. The number was a second stylization of the rider's name and title, in this case as W, meaning and being said as double, and each episode has 2 titles, an arc name with related letter, and an individual episode name alongside secondary meanings to each of those letters. This was followed with O's and 3's, 3 of the same term in the name, 3 descriptors of the episode as their title, 3 transformation trinkets used at once to transform.
Hell, it was even in their theme song.
The same with 4s in the number 4. 4 slots in the belt for switches, 4 bays on each suit for the switch modules, 4 in the title, 4 kanji characters spelling episode titles, and 4's name a portmanteau of 4 and 0.
There are other implications of the motif within each of these 3 series as well that further emphasizes its recurrence in those shows. However, due to trolls continuing to promote it, the fandom will not let this counting gag die, trying to say it exists in Wizard Onwards with more and more insane rationales for it, but with no tangible evidence, and what they cite directly contradicts this paradigm of the numerical repetition, as is the repetition and the consistent ways of utilizing that repetition through these 3 shows, which was actually the counting gag. The number itself was irrelevant. It was the ways it reappeared and was counted. You can't just find some random number visual like, say, an unlocked Lockseed looking like a 6 and say, counting gag confirmed, as the incidental appearance of a number wasn't what the counting gag even was. As at this point, you're not counting anything. You're desperately searching for any sign of a number.
Hell, Drive Onwards has had their own title stylizations that don't match the prior thematic at all, showing further evidence they're not even trying to do it these days. Drive possessing questions answered in the episode as their title names, Ghost's reactions, and Exide a romanized phrase amidst Japanese characters. And the in-show references, which were previously so consistent among the 3 that did it, would be vastly simpler to do to keep the motif going. But they haven't in any respect. Those all disappeared when Wizard started up.
Regardless, the fandom's gotten so bad over this thing, it's a taboo to even discuss due to the trolling that results. Really, I've seen people banned over it. So, before you get to typing a reply about it, I've heard the arguments, but according to Toei on this, any appearance of such seen past 4s has been outright debunked. Once more, it was not the random presence of that number in something, but the way it was consistently repeated. If it's not consistent to the previous utilization of this theme, it's not there. Thus, if someone says the counting gag exists past 4s, they're intentionally lying to or trolling you into believing this delusion.
Still, even as we head into this, I gotta tell ya, I do consider double mandatory viewing for Kamen Rider. There's just so much in here. This is going to be an 11-part video review series, including the movies as it is, which can appeal to so many people that it's difficult to even summarize it down without cutting out a lot of important scenes, character interplay, funny moments, and banter.
There's a lot to like here that even my in-depth recap and analysis won't be able to get into. Double truly is something you need to see for yourself, and I highly recommend doing so if you haven't yet. But if you don't mind being a bit lazy, lack the time, or need a recap of its early content to interest you, join me in the next video as we discuss the tale of a small-time detective agency in a witty little city called Futo.
Joker!